իր իրավունքների եւ դրանց պաշտպանության հնարավորությունների մասին ցավոք մեր հասարակությունում կա էապես իրապես դրանց կարիքը։ Պատշաճ իրազեկումներն են, որ հնարավորություն են տալիս կոտրել կարծրատիպեր, բացառել սխալ ընկալումներ։ Վստահ եմ, որ մեր ինստիտուտների համագործակցությունը դեռևս նորանոր պտուղներ է տալու։ Մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանի գրասենյակի սիրելի աշխատակիցներ, մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանությանը նվիրված սիրելի գործընկերներ, թույլ տվեք շնորհավորել ձեզ 15-ամյակի կապակցությամբ եւ համագործակցության ձեռք մեկնել համատեղ ուժերով կայացնելու իրավահավասար եւ պաշտպանված իրավունքներով լի մեր երազանքների Հայաստանի կերտման գործում։ Մեր աշխատանքի լավագույն արդյունքը կլինի ձեր գրասենյակի դատարկ փոստարկղը, իր նշանավորումն Հայաստանի Հանրապետությունում ժողովրդավարության կայացման, իրավունքի գերիշխանության հաստատման եւ մարդու իրավունքների պաշտպանության։ Շնորհակալություն։
Շնորհակալություն ազգային ժողովի մեծարգո նախագահ։ Խոսքը փոխանցում եմ Եվրոպական արտաքին գործողությունների ծառայության Արևելյան գործընկերության Ռուսաստանի Կենտրոնական Ասիայի տարածաշրջանային համագործակցության եւ ԵԱՀԿ հարցերով տնօրեն պարոն Լյուկ Դևինին։
Thank you, the Human Rights Defender, the Prime Minister, the President of the National Assembly, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be back in Armenia to celebrate this 15th anniversary of the Human Rights Defender institution, which we are happy to support. I would like to congratulate Dr. Tatoyan for his active work and endless stamina in developing this institution. I will surprise no one by saying that the European Union attaches crucial importance to the respect of human rights and rule of law. And indeed, Europe is unfortunately the place where we have seen 70 years ago what violations of human rights were leading to. Therefore, it is by no surprise that these values are enshrined in the European Union and also at the heart of the European Union-Armenia Comprehensive and Enhanced Partnership Agreement, CEPA, that I had the pleasure to negotiate and which was signed 2 years ago. Human Rights Defender Institution of Armenia is a key partner for the European Union and a regular participant in our EU-Armenia human rights dialogue. Much has been improved in this area in the last 15 years, and I would say even more so since a year. However, there's always work to do, and work on human rights requires constant attention. Let me just mention 3 important topics that we see in the structure of the Armenian state and which are important in this regard. First of all, we very much welcome the elaboration of the National Human Rights Strategy and Action Plan, and we look forward to its adoption. Secondly, we also welcome the adoption last month of the Judicial Reform Strategy, because there is indeed no effective protection of human rights without an effective judicial system. And Prime Minister knows this better and has reminded us of the importance of the sound and efficient judiciary in this regard. Thirdly, civil society. Civil society must play a key role in this regard, and we encourage all stakeholders, including the government, the National Assembly and the Human Rights Defender Institution, to continue and strengthen cooperation with it. And I dare to say this, Prime Minister, in front of you, because I remember when you were coming to our civil society event at the European Union delegation. So I trust that this cooperation will continue. Let me just briefly mention 2 topics which I think are extremely important. One is, has already been just mentioned now by Human Rights Defender, which is violence against women. As you know, yesterday was celebrated the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This happens, unfortunately, on a daily basis around the world and remains underreported due to silence, stigma and shame. In Europe, which is not necessarily the worst place for this in the world, but even in Europe, 1 out of 3 women has experienced physical or sexual violence. 1 out of 3. If you think of your mother, your daughter, or your sister, that means one of the three. So we have the responsibility to prevent, reject, and condemn it. The European Union has put substantial measures in place to end such violence, and things have started to change for the better, but much remains to be done. We definitely hope that Armenia will also take decisive steps to prevent and respond better to gender-based violence. The second topic, which is also a challenge of our times at moments of digital political communication, etc., is the need to prevent and counter the spread of hate speech. Of course, this must be done without putting undue limits to fundamental freedoms like the freedom of expression. But the spread of hate speech, especially when it comes to calls for physical violence or death even, may lead, and indeed has led on many occasions, to serious hate crimes. We, European Union, are also ready to share our experience in this field so that effective and proportionate measures can be put in place as soon as possible. Finally, let me conclude by saying that the Human Rights Defender institution can only be truly effective if it is a part of a whole system, a whole society that sees human rights as a priority. Seeing and hearing you, Mr. Prime Minister, as well as the President of the National Assembly, and listening to what you have said, I have no doubt that this is the case in Armenia today. The European Union will continue to support and engage with this institution and to support its crucial work. Congratulations on your 15th anniversary. Thank you for your attention.
Շնորհակալություն հարգարժան Դյուկ Լևին, խոսքը հիմա փոխանցում եմ Եվրոպական հանձնաժողովի հարևանության եւ ընդլայնման բանակցությունների գլխավոր տնօրինության արևելյան հարևանության հարցերով տնօրեն պարոն Լորենս Մերեդիթին.
Prime Minister, Speaker, Defender of Human Rights, Ministers, parliamentarians, ambassadors and distinguished guests. Let me join Luke on behalf of the European Union in congratulating Armenia on this happy 15th anniversary. I think it's a really important event and it's shown by the presence of so many distinguished people and yourself, Prime Minister, here. I'd like to make three brief points in addition to what Luke has said. Firstly, Prime Minister, we very much welcome the commitment that you personally have brought through the revolution to ensure that in this society, in beautiful Armenia, where I'm very pleased to be back again today, no one is left behind. As the European Union, we have a motto of united in diversity, and I think we see today a tribute of all the work that has been done in often challenging circumstances over the past 15 years. And I think that that is a credit to Armenia, that today you can stand proudly and speak up for the human rights for all people across Armenia. The second thing is just to illustrate what Luke has been saying. I'd like to give you a couple of examples of the way in which we, the European Union, are working with Armenia in support of your vision for the people. Luke mentioned that yesterday was the day tackling domestic violence against women. I'm very proud to say that together with you, Prime Minister, we have identified in 3 of the regions centers, and we're bringing help to over 750 victims to bring a real change to their everyday lives. And secondly, it's with great pleasure that here in this beautiful National Assembly, I can say that through our twinning, cooperation between equals as part of the European family, we will be twinning with the National Assembly itself, which I think is a really important sharing of experience of what's happening inside the European Union and what will be happening here in Armenia. And thirdly and finally, I just want to pick up 3 points that you said, Prime Minister. Firstly, you said that it's so important on behalf of human rights that everybody is equal before the law. And that's why I'm here together with Luke, because we on the side of the European Union want to support your vision for reform of the judiciary, for reform of the police, And I will be having in the next couple of days in-depth discussions on these very topics here in Armenia, because we want to support you, drive that agenda forward on behalf of the people. Secondly, you talked about no one must be left behind and an inclusive society. I don't come from the capital of my country. I'm here in beautiful Yerevan. But a capital is only, 10, 20, 30% of the population of a country. So important to be inclusive. So that's why I mentioned we have centers in 3 of the 9 regions of Armenia. We want to work outside the capital in the regions, and that's why, together with you, we have a partnership in Lori, Shirak, and Tabush, where we will be working also with the people on the ground. And thirdly and finally, you talked of the spirit of the Velvet Revolution, by the people, for the people. And there, I think you embody, under your team, the importance of civil society and engaging with people, as Lucas already said. And we, the European Union, stand with you on this very distinguished and important 15th anniversary. I'd like to congratulate you, the human rights defender, and you, Prime Minister, on your vision that no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Շնորհակալություն հարգարժան պարոն Մերեդիտ։ Սիրելի հյուրեր, խոսքը փոխանցում եմ Հայաստանի ՄԱԿ-ի մշտական համակարգող հարգարժան պարոն Շոմբի Շարփին։
Բարև ձեզ, բարի օր բոլորիդ, Excellencies, Prime Minister, President of National Assembly, Human Rights Defender of Armenia, ambassadors, distinguished guests, members of parliament. It's a great honor on behalf of the United Nations system to be here with you today in this National Assembly hall, at the very center of democratic and citizen power, the essence of accountable governance, to celebrate 15 years of the Human Rights Defender institution of Armenia. And if I could just take a very quick step back, as other speakers have, and reflect on the momentous year that we experienced last year here in Armenia. And I mean not just the 70th anniversary that we marked of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, nor the European Convention on Human Rights, which came into force soon thereafter. Both of these cornerstone agreements, of course, for the first time assuring everybody across the world that all rights apply to them, civil, political, economic, social, and cultural, regardless of race and gender, belief, or other distinctions, that human rights are universal and indivisible, the only question being how to enforce them, and that is very much the topic of today. Secondly, of course, here in Armenia, we witnessed a remarkable, peaceful revolution, a stand for the rights and freedoms that resonated, in fact, across the world, with women and young people at the core, bringing life to these declarations here in Armenia. And as the UN Secretary General noted at the time, during the General Assembly, a reason to hope that upcoming generations will do better than the previous. And I think in this sense, he meant both Yeri Tesardner, Yev Hokov, Yeri Tesardner, the young and the young at heart, for those of us who have gray hair. Last year also marked the 20th anniversary of the the Declaration of Human Rights Defenders, recognizing those who serve to protect people in the face of rising intolerance, racism, repression across the world. Standing at the confluence of these two important streams, we cannot overstate the importance of the Human Rights Defender's Office as an independent state institution, providing a bridge between citizens, civil society, and accountable government. And this role played out so visibly, so viscerally in last year's events and must continue as we move ahead. The scope and the demands of the Ombudsperson Office are in fact so broad and so weighty that the first European Union Ombudsperson, Jacob Soderman, once noted that the Ombudsperson is compared often to a Batman or a Superman. I'm sorry to say, in the end, he concluded the ombudsperson is neither Batman nor Superman, but a very strong emblem and symbol of the hope, the great hope and the great need for people to understand that the average citizen can achieve lawful rights in the face of great power. Thus, the need for a strong human rights defender and the need for strong partnerships. And this is why I'm very proud that we in the UN country team here in Armenia have been supporting the Human Rights Defender's Office since its inception, and so pleased now to have such a robust partnership together with our European Union colleagues, helping to implement human rights budget support through the joint UN action, promotion and protection of human rights in Armenia, collective effort of UNDP, UNICEF, and UNFPA, supporting such priority areas that have already been mentioned as the prevention of torture and ill treatment, anti-discrimination law, gender equality, child rights, follow-up, the European Court of Human Rights case law, and other international legal instruments such as the Universal Periodic Review of the UN Human Rights Council. And of course, as has been mentioned, to engage in important campaigns to raise public awareness on Human Rights Defender Office services provided to survivors of domestic violence, noting again that yesterday was the International Day of Elimination of all forms of violence against women, and that we are now in the middle of the 16 days of activism, bridging that day with International Human Rights Day on December 10th. So let me conclude by saying that the protection of human rights is not only a matter of universal values, but also a key to achieving Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, to achieving Armenia's long-term transformation strategy. In the words of the Secretary General, we will not enjoy security without sustainable development. We will not enjoy sustainable development without security, and we will enjoy neither without respect for human rights. So congratulations to the Human Rights Defender's Office, Mr. Tatoyan, and all of his team on this happy birthday. I think it is no surprise that you remain in full compliance of the Paris Principles for Human Rights Defenders institutions and continue to enjoy the highest A status reaccredited in 2019. Shnur Havor Tonet.